Well, welcome to Atlas Ag News presented by Agri Financial. This is the best live ag news that happens at 12:30 p.m. CST on Thursdays every single week. My name's Clayton.
And I'm Neil, and we're your hosts for the Atlas Ag News Show.
All right, today we're covering Trump's visit to China and what it means for U.S. producers. Richie's Bros completes their acquisition of Big Iron. The government is starting to seize farmland for people for private jets. And self driving tractors are a real thing, and they are working actively on farms. Then, on top of that, we've got John Leech, aka that ag guy from TikTok and Instagram, coming on later this afternoon, as well as Quint Pottinger, the farmer with the self driving tractor that we're going to cover in today's news articles. So, let's get into the news. One size fits all does not work in agriculture. That's why when you call Agri Financial, you talk to a real person who understands ag and cares about your success. No automated machines, no cookie cutter loans, just custom financing solutions for your land, your equipment, buildings, and bins. Your farm isn't standard, and your financing shouldn't be either. So connect with Agri Financial at cgb-agfi.com or at the link in the description. All offers to lend are subject to approval. NMLS number 1472, equal housing lender. The thoughts and opinions that you hear today are ours and don't necessarily reflect the opinion of Agri Financial or their team. And a quick disclaimer, I'm in Germany right now at Amazon's Big Field Day. So if my internet connection just disconnects and I disappear, don't worry. Neil's going to carry the show. It's going to be a great time. But just a quick caveat and quick note, I'm in a different country. So today is officially the first international Atlas Ag news show. And we think that's a big deal. So let's get into the news. So, what do China's new U.S. trade deals uh, mean for agriculture? So, China, Trump, Xi, all that crap happened right onto this day last week. And so, we finally have some news from that. So, Reuters reports with agriculture.com the core deal. The commitment of China has pledged to purchase at least $17 billion worth of U.S. ag products annually, excluding soybeans, for the next 3 years. The soybean target is in a separate commitment. China expected to buy at least 25 million metric tons of U.S. soybeans per year. The total volume, this pushes the U.S. total farm imports to an estimated 28 billion to 38 or to 30 billion annually. While this is below the 2022 peak of 38 billion, it is a massive jump from the 8 billion imported last year. So yes, that is a $20 billion jump per year compared to last year. So, as far as the sector by sector impact, quotas and duties, Chinese state traders dominate these purchases due to low tariff import quotas, 1% tariff up to 9.64 million tons for wheat and 7.2 million tons for corn, 65% duty beyond that. So, after they import a certain amount, the tariffs go way up. Sorghum quotas not changed. Meat and poultry, we'll talk about this in a bit. They approved a bunch of the U.S. Beef plants for more imports. Key products, China remains a vital market for high volume items with low domestic U.S. demand, such as chicken feet, pork ears, and offal. Yeah, never eaten one of those in my life. Restrictions, a 55% tariff still applies to imports exceeding China's strict beef quota system. Um, yeah, non-commodities, the meat aggressive 17 billion target. China will also need to scale up imports of non-food agriculture goods, specifically cotton and timber. So that's good for the cotton industry. And then global trade implications. To hit these targets, Beijing will likely have to intentionally redirect its supply chain away from other trade partners for political and strategic reasons. Let this also be clear that these are not signed and done deals for sure going to happen. These are verbal agreements said this is the plan. This is not what for sure is going to happen. But there was some moves in the market because of this. So Neil, what do you think of all this?
Yeah, I think it's a big deal. I mean, just the news for the market shorted up a little bit. We saw the market take a huge drop off when, Trump and Xi kind of left without anything in writing. And it spooked the
Mm,
markets a little bit. The markets fell off sharply. And then they came with these, just kind of like just really letting the traders know that there is a potential deal on the table and that there is prospective new buys from China. And that shored the market up, and we saw it, take another rally. So it didn't get to the highs that it did before, the massive drop off, but it did shore up the trade.
mhm.
So big deal. And I think I was watching a show yesterday where it said that China did meet 70% of its obligation from the old deal. So hopefully, this is continued, buying from China, and it should help us in the commodity sector long term.
Yeah, hopefully it continues. I have my doubts that this will actually come through. This did feel like a lot of political pandering. It's easy to say something. Once again, we want things in writing as actual commitments. Until that day, it is kind of just hearsay. But with markets the way they have been the past 2 years, I think anyone is. We're all kind of ready for just anything to kind of boost markets up and hopefully increase. Even if it's artificial demand, just from the market moving, hey, at least the price is going up a little bit. So this show is brought to you by Agri Financial, your go-to for custom financing solutions in the ag industry. If you need land, equipment, buildings, or bins, check out their website or give them a call at cgb-agfi.com or at the link in the description. So, just a reminder, all the opinions we hold in this show are ours and do not necessarily reflect that of Agri Financial. So, Richie Brothers Global completes the acquisition of Big Iron Auctions to expand its ag reach. Kurt Bennick with agriculture.com reports. Lost it there. Give me 1 second. Let's see. Okay, so Ritchie Brothers, you guys know, big auction house, very large in the construction industry, has struggled to reach the agriculture markets the way they wanted to. So this acts as a strategic expansion into agriculture. The deal is officially finalized. RB Global, which is Ritchie Bros Global, officially completed its acquisition of Big Iron Auction Company, a deal that was initially announced in March. The acquisition is designed to accelerate RB's or global expansion into the highly attractive U.S. agriculture sector, a category that demands deep local relationships and highly specialized asset management. Um, keep doing that. Sorry, guys. My iPad keeps scrolling to the top. On top of that, it brings, in addition to the agricultural equipment, Big Iron brings valuable expertise in agriculture real estate transactions, adding a new dimension to RB Global's existing portfolio. This is a massive transaction. So it should, adjust the bottom line of Ritchie Bros anywhere from 885 million in annual gross transaction value. So it's pretty crazy. This is very much a scale thing for them. So this article basically summarizes, hey, Ritchie Bros needed a scale player in agriculture, and anyone who works in ag knows that Big Iron is one of the big names for auction houses. So chances are, if you're looking for machinery, you're on Big Iron at least once a week. So I personally think this is a good step for Ritchie Bros. Neil and I both got invited to a Ritchie Bros auction earlier this year. And the reason we didn't go was because they didn't really have that much agriculture machinery. There wasn't a reason to fly down to Florida for this big, massive auction that was going on because they didn't have anything in the ag sector that really appealed to us. So I'm a big fan of this. I have shopped on Ritchie Bros plenty. They have a great software system. My brother-in-law, who works in the construction industry, uses Ritchie Bros a bunch for auctions. So I overall think this is actually a pretty good move. It's sad to see a ag company kind of be bought out from a non-ag company, but that's just the way things go.
Yeah, we were
What?
at what is it farm show, the farm show in Louisville 2 years ago, and Big Iron had about as big a presence there as anybody. That's a big company, and
Yep.
uh, yeah, I could see where Ritchie Brothers, was clamoring for that sector, to get into that sector deeply. And I don't think you could acquire a better, auction sale house in the ag space than them. They're kind of like the biggest player in the ag, other than the local guys, the biggest national player that there is in the ag space. So,
Yeah, I'm curious to see if they assimilate it into the Ritchie Bros like ecosystem, like they move the app over and the software over, all that, or if it's going to end up being still just Big Iron as Big Iron, and then they just, they're taking the revenue out of it and putting it on their books. So I'll be interested to see what that looks like. Whether this is just uh, if this is an acquisition to integrate into Ritchie Bros, or this is just a strategic acquisition to improve their overall portfolio from like a revenue standpoint. So time will tell. I'm sure they probably came out with some official documents on it, but
I
yeah,
wish they would. One thing I'll say about Ritchie Brothers, I wish they'd improve their mobile app. It's pretty, it's not the best.
it
So,
it is. I'll agree with that. Big Irons isn't much better either. So, you ever use Tractor House's app?
yeah, I'm not a fan of it either.
Yeah, I think they all suck. I think all the auction apps suck. So who cares? Someone make a good one. We have AI capabilities now. Can't someone, code up an app that like works better than this now? So if there's anybody listening, someone get on that. So all
Th-
right,
This
on to the
show is
next
brought.
topic.
This show is brought to you by AgriFinancial, your go-to for custom financing solutions in the ag industry. If you need land, equipment, building, or bins, check out their website or give them a call. Just a reminder, any opinions on the show are ours and do not necessarily reflect those of AgriFinancial or their team.
All right, Tyne Morgan with AgWeb reports China grants 5-year extension to hundreds of U.S. beef plant registrations. This is a key breakthrough. 5-year extensions. China's General Administration of a 5-year registration extension to 425 U.S. beef plants that had been facing a year-long impasse in China's cipher system. New approvals, in addition to the renewals, there are 77 new U.S. beef plants were approved for export. Political catalyst, the breakthrough followed the high-level talks between Trump and President Xi in Beijing, providing the necessary political momentum to break a year-long trade deadlock. A total of 35 beef establishments remain suspended. 25 of these were administratively renewed, but are still currently ineligible to export. So, economic market impact, drastic export deadline. Following the 2020 phase one trade deal, U.S. beef exports to China peaked at over $2 billion in 2022. However, the registration lapses last a year. Exports plummeted to under 500 million. The value per animal access to Chinese markets is estimated to add $150 to $165 in value per fed animal harvested in the U.S. Wow, that's a lot more than I thought. Carcass maximum. China has a very high demand for a variety of meats like backstrap and aorta, and traditional muscle cuts like short plates. Restoring access is expected to increase short plate values by more than $1 per pound. The halo effect, broad Chinese buying historically lifts demand and pricing for beef products across the entire Asian region, including Japan, South Korea, and Taiwan. Technical hurdles, phase two challenges. While getting listed in the registration system is a major first step, many plants still face technical and non-tariff barriers, including residue-related issues that must be negotiated. Immediate commercial demand. The U.S. Meat Export Federation CEO Dan Halstrom emphasized that commercial buyers, large-scale retailers like Sam's Club and Costco, and food service providers in China are ready to resume purchases immediately without needing to rebuild business infrastructure. So I didn't even know that was happening. I didn't even know that was a thing.
No, that's a big move, and I mean, this continues to shore up the beef market. Like our herd is short. If we're continuing to export into big markets like China, just along with our small herd, cattle prices should remain strong, barring some kind of black swan event that we're not expecting. But cattle trade looks good. Uh, I'm happy.
Making making you feel better about buying your cows.
I don't know yet about that, but
I texted Neil yesterday. I said, "Hey, you should make a video promoting the live show," which I don't think you got done, by the way, calling you out on live TV. But also, he said, "Sorry, I couldn't get to it. Was busy with the cows." And I said 2 weeks before, I said, "You don't realize how much the cows take up your time." And sure enough, 2 weeks later, the reason he couldn't do something, why? Why was it? I was working with the cows. So this will be a long process of Neil learning that he doesn't have a life anymore because of his cattle.
I've got live flowers growing in the field too, so they're pretty demanding as well.
That's true. That's true. But if you miss a day of the flowers, that's fine. If you miss a day of feeding your cows, that's a big deal. Don't you're not supposed to do that. So, all right, this show is brought to you by AgriFinancial, your go-to for custom financing solutions in the ag industry. If you need land, equipment, buildings, or bins, check out their website or give them a call. Just a reminder, any opinions on the show are ours and do not reflect those of AgriFinancial or their team. Kentucky farmer saves thousands of dollars letting a robot run the planter. We covered this a few weeks ago in a different article, but now we are farther in the planting season, and AgWeb has put out another article on Quint Pottinger. So this is just cool little tidbit, and we're going to touch on this a lot more later in the show, and we have Quint on to have a conversation.
So we might have lost Clayton, but
At Affinity
yeah,
Farms.
Qu-
Oh,
oh, Quint's going to be back on the show here in just a few minutes, and we'll talk about this article a little bit. If you're back, Clayton, I'll let you read the news article.
I'm back. Sorry. Once again, bad internet, guys. I'll get Starlink next time, I promise. All right. Quint Pottinger, eighth generation farmer at Affinity Farms in New Haven, Kentucky, has automated his crop planting using a retrofit kit from Sabanto on a John Deere 6135E tractor. Massive financial savings. By switching to an autonomous tractor, Pottinger has cut capital costs and reported a net gain of $400,000, ultimately saving his operation $500,000. Business expansion. The time saved by letting the robot handle a 12-hour day of corn planting has allowed Pioneer to scale his business into new markets, including installing a malt house and adding barley to his crop rotation. Slower, high quality planting. The autonomous system allows the farm to safely lower planting speeds from 5 to 3.5 miles an hour. The slower pace gives the machinery time to ensure optimal seed depth without needing high end, expensive row unit upgrades. Current limitations. The technology isn't perfect. It currently cannot reverse, requiring workers to manually plant corners. And if manual control is taken, the tractor must be physically returned to exact stop location to resume. Industry outlook. Bonto's ag strategy focuses making autonomy an affordable accessory for smaller, lower horsepower tractors, supporting 24 models across John Deere, Kubota, and Fendt. Their goal is to combat high equipment costs and agricultural labor shortages.
Interesting. I mean, I'm excited to hear what Quint has to say about the autonomous tractor, and I think it's the wave of the future. More than likely, sooner than later, we're going to see almost all you know modern ag practices autonomous.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I'm curious where they pull the 400 to $500,000 savings out of. Maybe it's just from not having to have two machines instead of just one. Because I was looking, I've actually been looking into this kit myself potentially for the future, and just looking even at used equipment prices for these size deer and Kubotas and Fendt. You're still looking to spend anywhere from 75 to $150,000 on one of these tractors that you can even put the autonomy kit on, and then I believe the autonomy kit's probably another 50 to $100,000. So you're still looking at way less total than you would be with a $400,000 tractor that might be a little bit larger, but isn't going to run as much because you have to have someone in there. So I don't know how the economics are gonna totally play out, but I'm once again have said it before on the show. We are way more likely in the future to have fleets of 5 smaller tractors running versus 1 or 2 large ones, especially when they are autonomous. When you do not have to have someone in the tractor cab, your flexibility goes through the roof when you have 5 machines that you can spread out across your fields versus 1. I mean, imagine having 5 different machines and 5 different fields going all day long, and your job is just to be the tender for them. Get them seed, fuel, def, whatever they need, fix the problems when they arise. Now you're planting 5 fields in one day versus, hey, maybe you got through, a bunch of other fields, maybe because you were in the tractor, but also it could have been done at a worse quality because you are going faster trying to get all those fields in, or you're burning more fuel because you're using a larger tractor, going faster, pulling heavier stuff. So there's so much good evidence to say that that is the future. Swarms are coming.
agree. I mean, you can see the savings from the smaller tractor size just in value per hour, fuel savings, and then labor is a big deal now too. So I mean, there multiple ways to save money there. And then that planter is expensive if it's large to
Mhm.
run by the acre too. So
Yeah, and
larger
I
planter
think
more expensive.
larger planners are more expensive, and high speed planners are more expensive too. And you
Yep.
have more wear and tear probably because you're going through the field faster. So
Yep.
overall, your repair costs and upfront costs for the planner go down. And then there's the whole other side of it. Hey, this autonomy kit, there's a pretty good chance it works for tillage too. Planting and tillage are pretty similar in terms of like paths.
Hmm.
So you can start the savings as soon as you start doing tillage with a machine like
Yep.
this. If you do fall tillage, oh, well, the moment you're done with harvest, some guy comes, drops the tractor off the field. You guys keep harvesting. Hey, tillage has started. So there's so many use cases, especially once the machine learning and the AI stuff continues to get better. It's coming. I intend to be an early adopter of the technology as much as possible. I'm sure once they become a little more widely available, you're going to start seeing more of them. I mean, at this show here, they have a self driving machine here. They've already sold 200 of them in Europe, and they're out in the fields working. 200. There are 200 self driving machines in production, in like production agriculture in Europe already, and they are coming to the US soon. So it's here. It's not even it's coming. It's, hey, it's here. It's just a matter of adoption.
Yep. Agree. This show is brought to you by Agri Financial, your go to for custom financing solutions in the ag industry. If you need land, equipment, buildings, or bins, check out their website or give them a call. Just a reminder, any opinions on the show are ours, do not necessarily reflect those of Agri Financial or their team.
Government seizes farmers' land to build airport for corporate jets and business hangars. Chris Bennett from AgWeb reports, okay, we have a core conflict here. The seizure. The government is using eminent domain to seize roughly 225 acres from the middle of Jeff Mellon's 450-acre family farm in Spalding County, Georgia, about 60 miles south of Atlanta. The purpose, the land is being taken to construct a new 730-acre regional airport featuring a 6,000-foot asphalt runway and 124 hangars. Mellon points out that the airport isn't for commercial passengers, but rather a hub for corporate jets, billionaires, and large businesses. He expresses deep irony that because his family sacrificed to protect and preserve the agricultural ground for nearly 80 years, it has become an attractive open target for development. Operational death. Splitting the farm down the middle leaves the remaining acreage on the front and back completely landlocked and inaccessible, effectively ending the multi generational cattle and pecan operation. Mellon was given an order to vacate within 90 days, requiring him to liquidate 65 cows and 30 calves and move 75 years worth of farm equipment without another facility ready. Mellon states that he is being lowballed and paid a fraction of what nearby properties have been sold. A nearby 100-acre farm sold for $75,000 an acre, with no legal ability to turn the government down. The Georgia Department of Transportation claims the new airport will generate 24 million in annual revenue. The site was first targeted in 2012 because the existing county airport runway was too short. Mellon criticized local officials for lack of transparency and face-to-face communication over the decade-long process planning. Construction is slated to begin in 2026. Ooh,
Yeah,
that is
that's a
not a
bummer.
fun article to read.
No, it isn't.
That's a
And
scary article to read. That's
it, re- it really is. And it seems like every week there's one of these that's happening. It's just the country is getting so large and spread out now. It's constantly coming into cities are coming into competition with the rural areas um and and the losers the farmer, the farm family, just over and
I
over
mean,
again.
purely from a political standpoint, I mean, the use of eminent domain to farm. Like, hey, taking part outside. It's like, hey, she's very cattle, massive section out in the cattle. Oh, breaking up there. You still got me?
Yeah, we got you. Oh,
Okay.
he's
You
down.
take that massive section out in the middle. I mean, improvise. Go, go.
Yep. No, it's so frustrating to see this happen over and over again to the family farms, but it's part of growth, and it's the tough part of growth. But it's just as the country expands and is more successful, more and more farmland is taken, and it's a sad story, but it's a fact of life, and unfortunately, we have to live with it. So this show is brought to you by Agri Financial, your go-to custom financing solution in the ag industry. If you need land, equipment, building, or bins, check out their website or give them a call. Just a reminder, any opinions on the show are ours and do not necessarily reflect those of Agri Financial or their team. So the
I want to go
American
back
Soul.
to that article.
Oh,
I
gotcha.
want to go back to that article.
Okay.
The forceful seizure of farmland sounds very wrong to me. There is, hey, you got offered it and you accepted, and there is, hey, we are going to use eminent domain to take your land from you for quote unquote the public good. I just think that's wrong. I mean, if someone knocked on your door tomorrow and said you have to vacate half your farm to us so we can build an airport, I mean, what would you do?
Yeah, I mean, there's not much you can do when they put a court order on you, and he got like a notice requiring him to vacate. So I mean, it's just one of those things where forced eviction is not fun. I mean, and it doesn't seem fair. The problem is, without a court injunction, there's not much you can do about it.
But isn't it wrong that in America you can own something like your land and the government can say, we are going to forcefully remove you from your land? Because in my mind, that means I don't own my land, right?
And I think that is, that's a problem with some of our property rights. But right now, that's the law, and we've seen it over and over again. Like just in the last 50 years here, the Tennessee TVA, Tennessee Valley Authority, came in, you know, s- basically seized hundreds of thousands of acres here in Kentucky and Tennessee, and forced everybody's hand, and there was no, uh, hundreds of years of farming in these valleys just disappeared overnight, and I mean, it has been good for the public, but for those farms, it was super sad.
Yeah, I can get selling to a data center or an airport when they write you the check and you make the choice, but it just sits very wrong with me when the government says you have no choice, get off. We'll pay you for it, but we're not going to pay you a fair rate, and it's going to ruin your life. Like in my
Yeah,
head, it's just
yeah, I
it
agree.
as someone who's studied history, it just is like the beautiful part of America is we do have the right to own land. We do have the right to bear arms. We have the right to do so many things. But really, those rights only mean as, at least now, we've given the government so much power. Like we literally have an amendment in our Constitution saying eminent domain is something that's okay. And that just blows my mind. Who did that? I should read some history on that. All right. Well, I'm rambling. All right. The American Soybean Association clears up E15 stance as Senate debate intensifies. Last week, we kind of talked with Brandon about that when E15 got passed. There were some rumors going around that the U.S. Soybean Association potentially disagreed with that because it would potentially hurt the demand for soy. Uh, and they have cleared that up. So, American Soybean Association clears up E15 stance. 100% support for E15, year-round E15. ASA, American Soybean Association CEO Steven Sensky clarified that the association fully supports the year-round sale of E15 and views it as a positive step for agriculture. The backlash stems from the refinery exemptions. The social media backlash against the ASA was rooted in confusion. The ASA does not oppose the ethanol expansion itself. Rather, they object to the additional language tucked in the House bill regarding small refinery exemptions. According to a study by the University of Missouri, um, while year-round E15 has a relatively modest market impact on its own, pairing it with the reallocation of SREs turns the bill into a net negative for overall farm income and government spending. The corn versus soy narrative rejected, despite online rumors of a split between corn and soybean groups. The ASA emphasized that both they and the National Corn Growers Association support year-round E15. The disagreement is strictly over the refinery exemption language, not biofuel policy. So after narrowly passing the House, 218 to 203, the bill faces a highly uncertain future in the Senate. It deals with complex committee jurisdictions and resistance from refining state senators and will likely need 60 votes to pass a standalone bill.
I would like to see it get passed, but I mean, I think it's just going to face a tough uphill battle in the Senate with, the oil lobby being super powerful there, and then, I mean, here we see the Soybean Association clearing this up, but I think this was definitely a negative impact of the issue, just because like the oil lobby love to use one against the other in ag policy, and it I think it hurt the overall um, momentum we had built up from it getting through the House, and then this kind of negative article comes out, and if nothing else, it was just kind of egg on the face. Uh,
Mm, yeah.
so
What is the SRE, the small refinery exemption? You know more than I do about this.
So basically, I mean, small refinery, that like that is language, but it's pretty large scale refineries, and it gives them a out of like not since they're a small refinery, not having to blend the amount of a major refinery, and so
Oh,
I don't know exactly like. Uh, of what they would like to see the language read like, but that's what the exemption
hmm.
is. It just allows small refineries to not have to blend at the level of a large refinery.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, I didn't know that. I don't really I should read up more on biofuels than I have because it does affect our industry so much, but I very much lump biofuels in with the oil lobby. It's like Somehow big oil is always involved, especially when we talk about biofuels. It just seems to always come up. So, this show is brought to you by Agri Financial, your go to for custom financing solutions in the ag industry. If you need land, equipment, building, or bins, check out their website or give them a call. Just a reminder, any opinions on this show are ours and do not necessarily reflect those of the Agri Financial team. All right. Cattle Facts 2025 survey. Record 2,246 calf revenues drive historic cow calf profits. Angie Stump Denton with Ag Web reports. You're not related to her, I'm assuming.
No, possibly,
Okay.
but I don't know her.
Cow calf producers navigating a high stakes market in 2025, according to the latest cattle fact surveys. The latest survey reveals a paradox in the 2025 cattle market. While it has never been more expensive to keep a cow, it has been rarely been more profitable to sell a calf. With data representing 300,000 cows across 40 states, the report provides a definitive benchmark for producers navigating today's volatile environment. Surging calf prices in 2025 far outpaced the increased cow costs, leading to the strongest cow calf profits recorded since Cattle Facts has been conducting this survey. The average herd size within the sample increased to 391 cows, which they report explains is primarily due to a decrease in the participants with 100 or fewer head. Let's see, record cash cow cost versus surging calf revenue. Cash cow costs increased $27 per head to $780 for a new record for the Cattle Facts database. However, higher calf prices have continued to offset the elevated costs. Participants reported an average revenue of $2,246 dollars per calf in 2025, up $631 since 2024. Adjusting for weaning percentages, average cow calf profit margins increased by $614 per head compared to 2024. Steer weaning weights were 7 pounds higher at 653. The weaned calf crop percentage saw a small improvement in 2025 with an average of 87.9%. Producer profitability continued to show the wide ranges driven by differences in costs, revenues, weaning rates. High return producers consistently generate 10% more pounds weaned per exposed female than the average low return operations. The last 2 years have noted a more uniform spread of both cow costs and calf values between return groups, likely attributed to higher calf prices. Some interesting stats. How much does it cost to keep a cow? Cash cow costs reached a new record in the Califax database. Average cash cow, $780. Feed and hay remain the largest expense, regional highs. Northern Plains reported the highest cash cost at $861 per head, with the Southeast remaining at 703. The survey suggests a strong intent to grow the national herd through 2027. 33% of producers say they plan to increase their herd by 10% or more. 2027 outlook, 29% of producers expect to continue expanding 10% or more. So, yeah, everyone's planning to expand 10% or more year over year for the next 2 years, at least in the cattle market, which is
Yeah,
interesting to see because everyone I know seems to be selling off their cows, at least was last year. Now
yeah,
it's
and
like, hey, stay in the game.
I would think with those record high calf numbers, a lot of people make the choice just to sell the calf. I mean,
Yeah.
it instead of retaining it and growing it for a couple of seasons and then breeding it. I mean, I think that because of the high calf prices, the expansion is going to be difficult. It's
Yeah.
just going to take a while to grow the herd to where prices start to come back down.
Yeah, I think this is going to lead to exactly what we see in the row crop market every time we have a big boom. We are going to see a lot of spending on a lot of things. We're going to see infrastructure built on ranches. We're going to see probably large expansion. We're going to see upgrade. We're probably going to see a lot more new pickup trucks, just like we do when corn's $7. um, we're going to see all of that. And what's going to happen is it's a slower because it takes a while. At some point, prices will come down and everyone's going to say, oh my gosh, we don't make any money anymore as they're sitting there in their brand new trucks and brand new barns that they build during this. So, you know what? Let them have it. Ranchers have it. You guys have had it hard for a long time. I also predict we're going to see more vertical integration. I think specifically the backgrounders and the feedlots are going to be really thinking, how do we bring costs down for us buying calves? And a part of that might be, hey, maybe we should start our own herd again. Maybe we should partner with someone else. So just like we see in row crop agriculture, we're going to see some form of vertical integration or consolidation in some capacity, just to either, because we do have profits on the calf cow calf side, but if you are a backgrounder or you are a feedlot, and even if you're quote unquote a packer, if you're a big packer, I don't care, you are feeling those prices a lot more. I mean, if you're a small meat locker, you probably are feeling this price increase a lot in a not great way. So it's good to see the cow calf guys finally making some money, but I think we'll see very similar economic shifts over the next few years in the same way we see that in the row crop industry whenever we have a boom and bust cycle. So it'll probably just take 7 years instead of 3 to 4. So
This show is brought to you by AgriFinancial, your go to for custom financing solutions in the ag industry. If you need land, equipment, buildings, or bins, check out their website or give them a call. Just a reminder, any opinions on the show are ours and do not necessarily reflect those of AgriFinancial or their team.
all right. Rollins touts new fertilizer projects. Yay. We're talking about fertilizer again. And you know what? We're talking about something finally happening in a good way. We'll see what actually happens. Chris Clayton with DTN reports the Trump administration's push to expand domestic fertilizer production and accelerate permitting. They are fast tracking the Blue Point ammonia plant. Okay, so the Trump administration announced that CF Industries should expect a permitting decision within 45 days of its 45 or $4 billion Blue Point low carbon ammonia plant in Louisiana. Capacity and timeline, a joint venture with two Japanese firms. The plant is expected to start construction in 2026 and come online in late 2029, adding 1.5 million metric tons of ammonia capacity. Officials stated that the project had previously been stalled by the Biden administration, climate initiatives, and carbon capture requirements, which they are now bypassing to speed up production. Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins noted that fertilizer prices remained roughly 55% higher during Biden administration due to factors like the war in Ukraine. Recently, retail anhydrous ammonia reached $118 per ton, up 30% since mid-February, and urea reached $865 per ton, exaggerated by the conflict in the Middle East. The Army Corps of Engineers issued a memorandum to all 39 districts ensuring fertilizer projects are not delayed by bureaucratic red tape. The EPA is accelerating the Clean Air Act and Clean Water Act permits and plans to end tractor deratements caused by emissions restrictions, the Department of Energy stuff. They are shifting away from green requirements. Next steps, while the administration is pitching these projects as a win for American farmers, open questions remain. CF Industries intends to capture a premium for its low carbon product, and its Japanese partners plan to export the ammonia to co-fire coal plants overseas. Republican lawmakers are working on farm bill provisions to increase pricing transparency and establish a USDA team dedicated to tracking input costs and potentially provide up to 100 million in loan guarantees for future fertilizer infrastructure.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a good thing long term. You increase the supply, and price will begin to move down. It's just in the short term, we're up against a rock and a hard spot. Supply is going to be limited,
Yeah,
because of
we're
yeah.
looking at a 3-year timeline before this thing comes online, and that's
Oh, for
that's probably the generous one. We're probably actually looking at 5. Like, it's a construction project. It ain't gonna be on time.
No, and I feel like there's going to be just a lot of reduction in fertilizer period because of the high cost going forward, and this falls to be seeded wheat crop and next year's
Yeah.
spring crop. Both those will be affected not only here in North America but also in South America as well. So
Yeah.
smaller crops mean higher prices, but that's probably offset by our fertilizer costs. So not a lot more money to be made for U.S. or
Yeah.
South American farms. They're going to take a hit.
Yeah, I think this is good though. I'm here in Germany right now, and dry fertilizer is the main thing. No one has liquid systems on any of their machinery here, minus the sprayers. Everything here is dry fertilizer, mostly because of infrastructure. And because of that, they don't have some of the cool infurrow stuff that we have and things like that because they've had access to pelletized fertilizer a lot more just because they're so much more regional and close to coasts and things like that. Whereas it does make times to have liquid fertilizer in a lot of parts of the US just logistically. Also, it's a great product. I think, comparing this to that, hey, necessity often creates innovation. And something that I have seen a lot in my travels, especially guys who farm in places with uh, low water amounts throughout the year or have no irrigation, they are forced to farm in a much more creative and strategic way because they have limited resources. Um, and I'm not trying to knock on any farmers who get a bunch of rain. And I mean, I live in Iowa. I mean, we got plenty of rain. It's relatively easy to farm in Iowa compared to like the high plains where they get like 10 inches of water a year. Okay. So what I'm saying is this could be good for the US farmer in terms of, hey, this might force us all to look at, hey, what do I really need and what's a luxury? And also look into, hey, what are other ways I can add fertility onto my farm that isn't strictly, just nitrogen or dry fertilizer? Are there different products or different practices that I can do that could potentially increase my bottom line without me having to, write a fat check to the fertilizer company? We're all tired of giving the fertilizer companies money. Okay, everyone can agree with that. So let this be a great stepping point of, hey, things are expensive. How can I get creative this year? I'm trying some of Spray Tech's products next week. It's one of their nitrogen products. And I was just looking at the cost. And I was like, this is a really cool looking product. It's not just nitrogen, it has a bunch of micronutrients mixed in too. It's a really low use rate compared to what we would be putting on. And so we're going to try it on one of our acres. And if I had not known about Spray Tech, I wouldn't even considered it. Budget's not as much a concern for me, but I'm just looking at things like, hey, like this is a cool opportunity, and maybe this will become a larger part of a nitrogen plant in the future. So there's a lot of cool things that I think can be done. If you're a grower listening to this, like what are ways you can get creative? How can you innovate on your farm with less fertilizer? We don't want the fertilizer companies to have a monopoly on fertilizer. The best way to do that is to stop giving them our money. So what can you do to get creative? So that's my 2 cents. All right. You got any other thoughts, Neil?
No, I agree. I think this will foster innovation and efficiency. So, anytime we go against, or anytime we're in struggle in life, it breeds resiliency and efficiency.
Yep.
And I think that's what it'll do for us as farmers.
Preach, preach. All right, this show is brought to you by Agri Financial, your go-to for custom financing solutions in the ag industry. If you need land, equipment, buildings, or bins, check out their website or give them a call. Just a reminder, any opinions on the show are ours and do not necessarily reflect those of Agri Financial or their team. All right, corn planting top 75% in 9 key states. This is just our quick planting progress update. Natalina Bausch with agriculture.com reports overall progress nationwide 76% of the corn crop has been planted, which equals to the last year. This time and slightly ahead of the 5-year average. Prospective planting reports indicate that an overall corn acreage is expected to be down this year across major producing states compared to last year, with Texas being the most notable exception. Tennessee is close to finishing at 96%, North Carolina 94, Kentucky 90, Iowa is at 88, Texas is sitting at 88, Minnesota 86, Missouri and 84, Nebraska at 82, South Dakota 81, Illinois at 75%, which is actually kind of behind, and then Michigan and Pennsylvania are the furthest behind with less than 50% of their corn crop planted. So yeah, that checks out. I know soybeans are getting close to that range too, probably a little bit behind. I know guys are still planting beans in Iowa, but I have seen a lot of corn starting to pop out of the ground the past week and a half. So
Yeah, I think just that northeast, Illinois, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Ohio, those guys have been getting inundated with rain. But
yeah,
I think the Midwestern and Western and Southern states have all almost wrapped it up, or they're wrapping it up currently.
yeah. I'll be interested to see how much potential replant there is because I don't know about anyone else watching. Iowa has been weirdly cold for May. Like we've been in 50s some nights, and there's not the heat units there usually is in May, and so I'm interested to see how that affects the corn crop over the year. I don't think there's going to be any replant, but the crop seems to not be jumping out as fast as it has been. So we'll see what ends up happening. So that's our news for this week.
This show is brought to you by Agri Financial, your go to for custom financing solutions in the ag industry. If you need land, equipment, buildings, or bins, check out their website or give them a call. Just a reminder, any opinions on the show are ours and do not necessarily reflect those of Agri Financial or their team.
Amen to that. All
Mhm.
right. Well, let's talk about Germany because I'm in freaking Germany right now, guys, and it's so cool. Guys, European agriculture is fascinating. I'm trying to think. I think the number one thing that I have seen here that sticks out to me a ton, uh, their machinery, and we've talked about this a lot on the show, has such higher utilization and versatility than American farm machinery. Every tractor here has so many different uses and like everything here is designed for the tractor, first of all, not to be on duals. I haven't seen a single tractor with duals because they don't let it down the road. All the implements are meant to fit within like a 9 meter width when they fold up. So even the pull behind implements are pretty skinny and narrow. There's a billion different 3 point attachments here. Everything has a front hitch. It's crazy.
The paddocks, are they small? Are we talking like 40-acre tracks? Is that what they are in?
Probably even smaller than that. I bet you
Smaller than
20.
that.
Um, every farmer we've talked to so far that farms in Europe, whether that's the UK or Germany or anyone else around here, like the largest person we've talked to is like 500 acres. So not big farms acre wise comparatively, and all those are way smaller. So they're moving from it's probably a lot where you're at, Neil, just small fields hopping from place to place. We drove by a big field the other day and I was like, that is it, their big field was like 40 acres. Like
Yeah.
that they pointed is like that's a big field over there. And I was like, that's a 40-acre field probably. So
Are they
so
vertically integrated over there? Like lots of animals on the farm, or like are they actually milling their crops once they're harvesting them?
we went to a pig farm the first day we were here. They're pretty vertically integrated. They do grow a lot of their own feed, but they also can buy like leftover like puffed corn or malted barley and stuff like that as feed at a lower cost than they can produce it themselves. So they do buy some of that. But what he was saying is a lot of farms do have some form of animal impact in some way. Seen quite a few cows, quite a few horses around. There's a lot of pigs. Germans love pork. I have not seen beef on a menu like anywhere while we've been here. It's just pork and chicken everywhere. I really miss a burger. Like every single meal has pork in it. It's just crazy. And then sheep. There's just been a lot of sheep on the side of the road. Not like huge herds, usually just like 10 to 15, but you see a lot of sheep. So it's pretty cool. It's I'm not gonna say it's like quintessential like European farmland, but there is sort of this like green grass, sheep out there, some cows. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Are they wool growers or meat sheep?
I'm assuming they're meat sheep. I don't know where our wool comes from, but it's not coming from a Western country. Like I just don't know. I don't know where the bulk of wool in the world is grown. I'm assuming it's New Zealand still,
Yeah,
and probably
New
some of those
Zealand.
South America, like the Southern Hemisphere. I know like Argentina has a pretty big sheep herd down there. I know Chile's got a bunch of sheep. So no idea. I think sheep here are probably just as much for meat, just and as much as hey, it's probably just good to have animal impact. Um, that's my guess. So
What about the
trying to think
German
what else.
beer? You've been partaking in German beer while you're there?
No, but Spencer, our video guy, I mean, he's having a great time. We went to a distillery. We went to a distillery on Wednesday, and I'm not a big drinker. I don't really drink that much at all. And this distillery, it's like an on-farm distillery, and so they're like, "Oh, we should try some of the product they have." And so they had a couple different forms of gin there. I mean, they had a lot. They had a lot of different varieties, and so they gave us one shot. I was like, "Okay, I can deal with one shot." It was like, mind you, it's like 2 in the afternoon. Like it's not anywhere close to happy hour. 2 in the afternoon. Also, mind you, they gave us beer and everything before this. So like we're all drinking a beer before this, walking around the farm and like checking things out. They're giving us a tour. And they give us a shot. I'm like, okay, I'll deal with one shot and then I'll be done. Well, They had us try 5 different types of liquor, all very high. The highest was 50% alcohol content. Like, you could clean your bathroom with that alcohol. It was so intense. Um, I had just half shots, but Spencer, I mean, he's gonna hate me for saying this, but Spencer, full 5 shots, has a beer after. We go out to dinner, he's got 3 more beers, and he's not drunk or anything by any means, but you can just definitely tell Spencer's having a great time, so shout out to Amazon for bringing us over. It has been a great time, just like getting to see all this and just have a good trip. It's yeah. Oh, their implements too. They're also no one's no till over here. The amount of tillage over here is crazy. Like it's like going back like 60 years. Like just moldboard plows, soil everywhere. Every planter has some sort of tillage on the planter as well. Pretty interesting stuff. So
Are they getting close to wheat harvest over there? Or are they still a month out?
everything's headed out pretty much, so it's
Yeah,
probably still got, yeah, another 4 or 5 weeks before it really starts to dry down. Everything's got the tufts on top of it pretty much right now. So I wanted to go look in a field and actually, like, grab some wheat and see what it looked like, but I'd probably say it's pretty close to where yours is at too.
yeah,
So,
yeah. I
but
wanted to
other than
help.
that, I was gonna say, climate-wise, it feels very similar to, like, a northern Midwest state, like, it's not hasn't been super hot. I'd say it feels kind of like Michigan, like, and if you look at where we are in the hemisphere, it's pretty similar to where Michigan is, so, climate-wise and even trees and all that, like, if you've got wheat in Michigan, it probably looks pretty similar to what it looks like here, so,
Cool. And
how's
then
your flower farm
yeah,
how's your flower farming going?
we're probably about half planted. And it's a new thing for me. Like I've, I've probably got, I don't know, 15 species of flowers out there, and I'm trying to space them out. So like all the flowers won't come in at once. I have some that are going to bloom all summer, and then I'll have some that will be cut in sections. So we'll have like maybe one row of one species that'll come out at once, and then it'll be resowed into a different crop this fall. Probably more of a bulb type that'll overwinter, and then have a spring crop of flowers next season.
Where are you gonna sell these? Are you gonna do a U-pick? Are you gonna take
I'm
them to a
gonna do
stand?
some you pick, but wholesalers and then we're also gonna try some of like Nashville's Farmers Market, Frankfurt, and Louisville as well. So that's gonna be the smallest part. I mean, I have no idea if I can sell them like that or not, but the majority of my market's gonna be wholesale.
You found wholesalers to buy them.
I have, yeah, I've got a couple lined up. I hope.
That's
I mean,
you
I have to produce quality. So I think I can
yeah.
do that. Just
The most profitable farming by acre is flower farming. I've never read anything or heard anything not about flower farmers making good money per acre. So
yeah. I've been able to raise quality products in my garden, so I hope that I can scale that. I think I
mhm,
can. I guess
yeah.
we'll see when I got the product, and then my quality is dependent on how well I can sell them. And the higher the quality, the more the wholesaler wants your product. So
Yeah. You wanna talk about something in Germany that is way crazier and nicer than the US? We went to a farmer's market yesterday, center of town. Man, we do farmers markets wrong in the US. Like, you know how you go to a farmer's market and everyone's, like, set up a tent and, like, they got their table and everything? Like, it feels like a mom and pop farmers and everything, like, roll up, they set up a table and everything. Like, that's the kind of the general feel of a farmer's market. This farmer's market, everyone rolls up in, like, a trailer, like a truck with a trailer on the back of it or like a box on the top of it. And not like a food like imagine a food truck, but like a food truck that is nicer than most like mid to high scale like restaurants. Like these trailers are nice. Like nicer than any restaurant you have in La Center, Neil, for sure, without a doubt. Uh
hey, don't
and
knock
it's
my
like,
local restaurant.
no, they're great. They feed me great food. You can definitely tell the center is not trendy. That's all I'll say. Anyways, they got all these people, they roll up in their trucks and they like all the sides open and everything. They got awnings, they pull tables out and stuff. And I was like, I don't know what they're charging at these farmers markets, but they are living large with these like nice trucks and vans and everything. I've never seen a portable vehicle kitchen that looks that nice. Like I like calling it a food truck is a disservice to what these things are. It's so interesting. So it's been interesting to see, and a lot of them are farmers who do show up and sell their product there. So it's interesting. I would love to know how their economics work out with all that. So
I think that's really cool, and I think that's going to be one of the things that you're going to see happen over the next decade is farms that actually have like premier chefs that go with their trailers to
yeah.
sell the products, and then the chef is preparing some of the courses there for people to buy along with the product. You know,
Oh yeah, we had some fish from, one of the oceans nearby, and it was super delicious. They had a bunch of meat. So like they had a huge meat selection, a huge cheese selection. They had a ton of flowers there. There was a ton of flowers there. Great coffee carts and everything. It was just like it felt like going to a very bougie farmers market like in the US. But I've never been to a farmers market that I would call bougie. I've been to farmers markets that I would call incredibly nice and like are really cool, but like nothing like this. So I
I,
do agree. I think we'll see a lot more of that, especially in places like Nashville or
yeah,
cities that have a rural countryside that can grow multiple products. Like I think
they
we'll see a lot more of that.
they say the Nashville farmer market is bougie, and I'm excited to see it. We're gonna go take a visit there before we start bringing product there, and just have a look around, see what I need to be prepared for. You know, so
They're
maybe I'll
probably going
bring
to
that.
charge you like $500 a day. I've
They
heard that.
may.
I've heard that's a real problem with farmers markets is like the coordinator. Like I wouldn't call it a problem. Like the people who are putting it on like should charge a little if they're coordinating it between like the organization and the marketing of it and everything. But also I've heard some of them charge you a lot to be there. So,
Yeah,
but
I guess if you can
that's
sell your
cool.
product, that's I'll take it. But I'd rather not pay $500 a day.
Yeah. Maybe start with Paducah first. See if Paducah's got a farmers market.
I'm,
Hey, all right. So we have a guest coming on here in a minute or two. We have John Leech, aka I hope I'm saying that last name right. AKA that ag guy coming on. If you guys are not on TikTok or Instagram, that's fine. There, you probably don't need to spend all your time on there. But John is that ad guy on TikTok and Instagram, and his videos are some of my favorite videos on social media. A year ago, I had no idea who John was, and all of a sudden, he was everywhere, and I was like, "This is super high quality content." So John has covered a bunch of different crops from different states. He is an agronomist. He does some really cool stuff with flowering trees. He works all over the East Coast. I'm always learning something about a crop when I'm watching his videos, and so it's just really cool to get a see his stuff on social media. So I'm excited to talk to him. Neil got to meet him a few weeks ago at the White House, and so we're just excited to have him on the show. So how's it going, John?
Hey, I'm doing good. Thank you for having me on. Yeah,
thanks for joining us.
meeting Neil at the White House was fun because neither of us recognized each other until after the event.
When you're at an event like that and you see people on social media all the time, and even though like I've watched you a ton, it's hard to recognize somebody off camera when you only seen them on. And when I was standing over there by TJ and John, and I kept thinking, man, I know him from somewhere. And then it dawned on me when I watched his video later in the day. I was like, hey, now I know where I've seen him at.
Same thing. I'd never seen Neil in a gray suit until we were there, and then I just did the suit threw me off. I don't.
Yeah. So, talk about. I'm assuming it's still dry there.
Oh my God, yeah, yeah, big time. Um, North Carolina, we're in terrible drought conditions. All 100 counties. There's 100 counties in North Carolina, and every county that we have is in some sort of drought condition. We have 5 that are in D4 conditions, which is terrible. It's as bad as you can get. What is that? Exceptional drought.
Yeah.
And then we have 66 that are in extreme drought, and then the remainder are still in moderate or severe. But even with the presence of no moisture, with there no presence of moisture, yeah, well, a lot of our stuff's looking pretty good. Our winter crops are pretty much a total loss. Rapeseed, triticale, rye, and wheat. We've had more total loss claims and more bailed for cows this year than I ever
Hmm.
have. I actually saw a winter statistic for our winter wheat crops that we had the lowest yields for winter wheat since 1952 in North
Wow.
Yeah.
Carolina. Yeah, so it's
See,
pretty.
that's super interesting because for the past few weeks we've covered the winter wheat crop progress and its continued deterioration and all the crop progress reports. And I don't think once it's mentioned North Carolina. It's all been the high plains, Texas. Oh my gosh, such a bad drought over there. I don't know if I've seen a single article mention that North Carolina's wheat is also in a pretty bad drought.
Oh, dude, yeah, big time. Well, where I mean, just total, all the whole southeast is in pretty bad shape. Now we have
Mm,
good rain coming. Starting tomorrow, we have rain in the forecast every day for the next 10 days in the forecast, which messes up Memorial Day weekend. I'm not getting the vote out, but I'm not saying that I'm too upset about it. But North Carolina, we're not a huge wheat producer. At the end of the day, when
mhm.
you think of North Carolina agriculture, a
Yeah.
lot of people go towards meat production. So we have, what, 6 billion hogs. We have a couple. We have, yeah, yeah, it's like 6 billion chickens and a couple million hogs, and we're big meat producers. We're not big cattle producers, but a lot of our grain goes towards meat production. So our buying stations are Smithfield, Prestige,
Mm,
Mount Air, and a lot of our wheat goes into that, chicken and turkey feed. And
mm,
so, when it comes to feeding the world with our wheat crop, we're not doing, it's not
yeah.
sexy to talk about North Carolina wheat because it's going to a hog.
Hey, you know what? I feel very similar with my wheat crop in Iowa. Not exactly allowed to play at the table.
Yeah, exactly. Now, when you get into talking about sweet potatoes and tobacco, which we are the number one producer of in the United States, we're the number one producers for flue cured tobacco in the United States, and the number one producer for sweet potatoes. We produce over 70% of the sweet potatoes for the country.
Mm,
And so that's something we're real proud of. Those impacts people talk about, and we're not seeing much talk about tobacco,
yeah.
which is bad. I always try and bring that up and bring the crop to the forefront of all my videos and outreach about it because a lot of people don't consider it. And while there's a downward trend of tobacco use, culturally and economic, and when you think about economics as well, it's a huge part of North Carolina. And, we try and support that industry
So
as
what
well.
I'm hearing is you're super for smoking.
Yeah, yes, big time. Support the industry. I actually have a
Okay,
shirt
well,
coming out that says, "If you don't like it, don't smoke it." And it's got a tobacco tile on the back of it.
yeah, why doesn't everyone rip a cig for the sake of the farmer? Come on, guys. Like,
Well, we're changing the industry really because we're growing dark fire and burley tobacco in North Carolina now to try and supplement the industry for processing. So Zens
mm,
and vapes, we want that to be naturally derived nicotine and not come from a lab in China, because as we know, things that come from labs in China don't work out too well. And and so we're trying to push organic, derived nicotine for these products, these smokeless products.
for your health's sake, make sure that your nicotine intake is organic, guys. Come on.
It's
I mean,
derived from North Carolina.
if you're gonna eat an organic salad, you better be smoking an organic cigarette too, and organic
And
zing,
I
guys. I
gotta
mean,
tell
come
you,
on.
dude, Brooke Rollins, bless her heart. We were in there talking during that Great American Agricultural Celebration, and we were talking about meat production and grain production. And her and RFK were sitting there, and I lit into them about supporting the North Carolina tobacco market. And dude, they did not want to talk about it. And
Okay,
it
okay,
was
okay,
funny. It
okay.
wasn't funny.
Come on, come on. I mean, if you're Maha, are you really gonna be for the tobacco market?
Well,
Okay, okay.
believe it or
Let me say,
not, RFK's for nicotine. He's about it. You
You know,
know,
and
is
I,
is is RFK super into Zen and we just all don't know it?
well, I mean, you gotta be, right? Now, look, the reality is my whole thing with supporting North Carolina tobacco is harboring good trade with China because 70% of our total tobacco crop in North Carolina actually gets shipped to Southeast Asia.
Well, I was gonna say, how's your export markets? Because everyone in Germany and Europe is still smoking. Like,
Oh yeah,
there's all
dude, it's
everyone's smoking.
fantastic, and you can't replicate North Carolina tobacco anywhere else in the world because of our specific soil conditions and climate. They're trying China sponsors farms out in Kenya and in Southeast, out all over Asia and into Africa, into the developed parts of Africa, and even into South America. And they try to replicate fluke-here North Carolina tobacco. They cannot do it. So they always come back to the table, but we need them to buy about 60 million pounds for this season, on top of their soybean orders. So that's what I was trying to push. I was like, look, y'all are doing a great job getting these soybean volumes through. We need that. That's awesome. Tag on 60 million pounds of tobacco, please.
Send Rollins a letter to give to Trump saying, "Hey, next time you're hanging out with Mr. Z, make sure you talk about tobacco and smoking. Like it's a
I'll
big
text
yeah."
her. You know.
Yeah, shoot her a quick
Yeah,
text. Say, hey, like
I'll shoot her a text.
just so you know, smoking should be top of mind for you right now, and you should always be thinking about it. I'm not anti-tobacco. I won't touch a cigarette. I will smoke a pipe or a cigar every once in a while. I do have a lot of fun with that. So,
Well, you
but
go
what
out
else?
you,
What,
out towards
let's move on because
Nashville. Yeah, sorry. Go.
I could
Sorry. Go.
go on for a long time about this. This is fun, but kind of break down to me more of what your actual day to day looks like because you are an agronomist, crop consultant, right? So you're on the road a lot. You're seeing a
Oh
lot of
yeah.
different crops. Like, what's the day in the life of John look like as someone who works with a lot more crops than just corn or soybeans, like most guys in the
Oh my gosh.
Midwest?
Well, every day is a new. It's always a time to learn something new. It's the best part about the job. I will say that I'm not a private consultant in the term that I'm not attached to a business, right? So
Mhm.
FCI, you see it in my hat in every video I post. My family company, my as custom blend fertilizer, liquid and granular that my grandfather started in 1964. We had one of the first liquid fertilizer production facilities in North Carolina
Mm.
in the 60s. And so I work hand in hand with my dad and my cousin and my brother, big family business. And I'm doing agronomic sales and advisement on the farm. And so a lot of that is in the Southeast that we only have like 3 agronomists on. I'm one of them, right, on the payroll. So we have to specialize in a lot of different stuff. So anytime
Mm.
during this time of year, I'm on cotton, corn. I just did a big video on peanuts. The last 2 days, I've been talking about peanuts, stone fruit, strawberries, squash, onions, peppers, tomatoes. We got broccoli coming out of the field here in North Carolina right now. We got cabbage coming out. And so large direct consumable produce, and then white potatoes as well out near the Blacklands of North Carolina. So I did the math on it. I think I work directly with around 104 different farms in any given day.
Wow.
So it's a lot,
Wow.
all the way up into Minnesota. I deal with edible beans, black beans in Minnesota, outside Fargo,
Oh my
North Dakota, Minnesota, right on the line,
my goodness, bro. Good.
all over the
That
place, dude.
is. That
It's
is,
crazy.
and you managed to make some great social media content all at
That's
the same
fun.
time.
I don't know when I get to sleep, but it's not very often. That's good. And then more recently, dude, I've become the TikTok strawberry expert, which is really fun. A lot of strawberries going out, and I met a lot of different farmers down near Alabama, southern Georgia, northern Florida, into Mississippi and Louisiana, and I'm sending strawberry information and truckloads of some fertility amendments as well down into the deep south on strawberries, which has been a super cool thing. Being able to meet, dude, social media is the coolest thing in the world. And I've only been doing this for like 8 months,
That's what I'm
9 months.
saying is like literally a year ago, no idea who you were. And now I cannot not see you. And also, you're one of my favorite people to watch. Like, I don't
Well, thank you.
really
You're one
follow
of
a
my
lot of
favorite
people
people
on.
to watch. You know,
Well, thank you. I just like there's so much social media and there's videos that I like really want to watch and yours are always one of them. Like I also like you clue us into a part of agriculture that you don't see that often. Most of ag we think of corn, soybeans, big tractors, big combines. We had Kate on a few weeks ago, Apple Girl Kate, and it's just so
oh
cool
yeah,
to like meet people who grow things that aren't blended into other things or fed to cattle. Like it's just so cool to see stuff like that.
I
What's
appreciate
been
it. Yeah,
what's been your
dude.
favorite What's your favorite experience so far from social media, excluding the White House? Excluding the White
The
House.
White House was cool. Man, I got to tell you, it's been the networking. The coolest thing. Okay, so I've worked in this industry. I'm not that old. I'm 28, and I've been doing this professionally for about 8 years. And people knew me as a local professional, as a provider, but I didn't really have the penetration or was making a big splash in at least North Carolina ag until I started social media. Except for my local kind of area, people recognize me in Walmart now, which is crazy. And then I got a phone call right after my first video blew up, and I was talking about North Carolina agriculture. I got a phone call from Governor Stein after that, and I have his phone number now, which I didn't vote for him, but he's a nice guy, and so I got to talk to the governor. Zippy Duvall knows me by name, which is crazy. President of Farm Bureau,
The
Sean Harding,
legendary
North
Zippy
Carolina.
Duvall.
Dude, they invited me to they're feeling me out to be the keynote speaker for the Young Farmers and Ranchers Conference in February. I mean, it's
Dang.
it's crazy. And so I joke with my dad about it, and I say, hey, he's worked in the industry for 50 years. And I said, man, I'm catching up to you already. I've only been here for 8. And he said,
Oh, I'm sure sure he's like, pipe down, son, pipe
no,
down.
he thinks it's the coolest thing ever because people call him and say, hey, are you paying an influencer to wear your hat on the internet? He said, well, I guess I am because that's my son. It's crazy, man. And it's fun.
So has that had like really good effects on your guys' business because you are like you're more or less like passively influencing your guys' company? Like, hey, this is what we do. Like,
Yeah,
I've never even
I've
heard
had
you talk
people.
about liquid fertility before, but apparently that's what you like. Now I'm like, oh, like
Yeah.
this guy's probably
So
sold a ton of
I'm
this
bad
stuff.
about it. I'll be honest with you. I feel like it's a disservice if I go in there and the only thing I'm trying to do is plug in my family company when locally we're doing fine. We've been here for 60 years, right? And it's I do push it. I have had some success in offering solutions to practical problems, but my social media is not here to specifically be an ad run for my family business, and I don't treat it like that. I'm here for agricultural education and to be able to write the story of North Carolina agriculture accurately to people who don't understand. I had somebody call me someone got my number off the company website just to ask me questions, general questions about agriculture. And it's the reason I made the peanut video yesterday, determining what's the difference between a runner peanut and a Virginia, because they didn't know that different varieties of these plants are used for different things, right? There's a difference between the corn the yellow dent corn that Neil's growing on his farm and the popcorn going in South Georgia and the white corn going in Sampson County, North Carolina. There's a different use for all these products and people don't know it. So being able to correctly write the story of North Carolina agriculture and ag as a whole was my goal with it, not trying to get a
That's good.
transaction with my fertilizer company,
Well, that's good. Good thing you're not a sellout, but we are. This show is brought to you by Agri Financial, your go-to for custom ag financing. If you need buildings, bins, land, or equipment financing, give them a call. Reminder, these opinions are ours and not those of Agri Financial. Just had to throw that in there. So
Hey, I
someone's
like that. And
someone's got to keep the lights on around here.
hey, I'm not saying I'm for sale, but I am looking for sponsorships, ag gear. If you're looking at this, hit your boy up. Same thing with Poncho. Appreciate it.
I've got their marketing director's number. I'll send it over to you when you're done. I actually have a bunch in my basement if you want it. We'll work something out. Let's make sure that happens because they're always looking for people to work with.
That's hilarious. Yeah, dude, I'm down. I'm still learning how to do the influencer thing. Like I said, it's less than a year into this, and I'm finally starting to lean into it because I'm having people ask me to do these keynote speaks and go to these different conferences. I was in South Florida over the weekend at Everglades Outfitters wrestling alligators. Yeah, people
life.
invite you to do the craziest things. So that's a fun thing too, being able to do the outdoors. I'm an outdoorsman. I love to fish. I love to hunt, and so that's part of it. I got to go to Lake Catahoula in Louisiana and duck hunt, and then alligator wrestle and fish this past weekend, and super cool thing to do.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm the reason I'm on this trip is because we do social media. I was like, hey, like they really wanted Neil to go, and he was like, Clayton's got to go too, and then Neil couldn't go. I was like, well, we'll make some videos for you, like we'll make it worth your time, don't worry. And so now I'm sitting in Germany, so, but we can talk. I'll have another conversation with you because you are a master at TikTok. I want to learn your ways because Neil and I have always been much smaller on TikTok than we have on our other platforms. So
Here's
it
the key.
will.
I tell people, and I know you got to get me off of here soon, but this is what I say: is it is always good to be visible, not viral. If you look at my channel, TikTok as well, I don't have a single video over 1.5 million views. My average view count right now, it's a little low. It's like 2,000 on TikTok, but 50,000, 25,000. And I say that visibility is long lasting, visibility is impactful, and visibility keeps people coming back. It builds an audience. Virality is short lived. You don't want to be viral, you want to be visible.
100%.
And so that's how I build it. That's that
Yep.
real information, high quality content, shot on the good old iPhone. That's
Well, I think for you, because we're the same way. Like we post pretty much every day across our platforms, and that has the most compounding effect. But I know for you specifically, I'll give it to you. You are so well articulated in the way you do your videos that it makes it so enjoyable to watch. So, kudos to you on that.
Thanks, man. Appreciate
Yeah,
that.
Neil, what questions do you got for John? Sorry, I accidentally took over. I'm just having such a fun time. This is great.
Yeah, you're good, dude. I'm having a good time too.
No worries. I was just I was kind of just wondering what was happening in the field this week. There, are they planting peanuts?
Oh yeah. Well, we're kind of wrapping up peanuts. We are full fledged into our late Group 5 beans. So you're seeing a lot of like 57 XF2 Asgrows going to ground right now. We got some of those 6.2s going in. So our mid group beans. We plant beans all the way up. Some guys into mid July, late July here, right? We'll see a Group 7 go in the ground. I've seen them go in August, but I've seen corn go in August. But that's another thing. But yeah, so we're finishing up. A lot of guys, I got guys that have corn that is tasseled. And I told you this on text the other day. I got guys with corn that is tasseled, and I got guys with corn planters in the field. It's across the board. We're probably 2.5 weeks behind on planting in North Carolina, and especially soybeans. Full season beans are behind. I've taken more seed returns in the last 2 weeks and given them later maturity beans than I think I ever have. So right now, though, we're seeing a lot sweet potatoes going in the ground. That started real heavy this week on setting sweet potatoes. Peanuts are finishing up. Cotton started last week. We're late on cotton because we wanted heat to get in to cancel out the thrip population, so we didn't have thrip damage on the cotton. So a lot of people waited in order to get some higher GDU counts and soil temperatures. And then
when do you guys usually start planting corn there? Because if you said there's times where you got guys with
first week of March,
corn
the
versus
second week of March.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the frost there, like mid late November.
Yeah. Oh no, dude, we didn't get a frost this year until like December 5th.
Oh really?
Yeah. It just depends, man. It was 2 years ago. It was 80 degrees on Christmas.
Yeah.
I mean, you just never know how it goes. But if you average it out, it'd be late November.
Yeah.
So I mean, we don't have beans out until January sometimes.
Is your guys' rainfall and growing conditions really affected by what's going on in the ocean? Like, is a lot
the
like
La
does that,
Nina deal going big time. Yeah, dude, we are historically dry right now compared to how we have been. Last year we had pretty adequate rainfall. I think we were close to 64 inches maybe for the year, 64, 66 inches.
So probably because of that, you guys can have years where you are super bad drought, and then you have other years where it's just too much rain to even handle, like too much to even think about.
Dry weather will hurt you, but wet weather will kill you, is what we've always been told. And now, while we have we have coarse, well-drained soil types here in North Carolina. So we can handle water. And a lot of our farms are diked up to be able to move water off of the farm. This is all old tobacco land. But man, like 2 years ago, we had guys buying tracks just to get the corn out the ground, get the corn out the field. And now this year, we had guys hit the pause button for a month and a quarter and go to the beach before planting the corn.
Mm.
So
What is like the makeup of the average farm there? Like you guys can grow a lot of crops, so what does it look like from farm to farm? Are they very like we do a bunch of crops or we specialize in one or two? Like what's the makeup of the average farm there?
that's a great question. It depends on the area of the state that you're in. Okay, so
Mm,
North Carolina is cut up into three different areas. You have the coastal plains, you had the Piedmont, and you had the western part of the state. The western part of the state are specialty growers. That's where you get into your apples and your grape production. Um, North Carolina apple production's fairly large, next to West Virginia, and so we get into specialty up there. Central North Carolina, outside of the coastal plains, near Raleigh, close to the capital, is where you see the majority of our tobacco production, from
mm,
Raleigh all the way over to Wilson, North Carolina, and out. So around
mm,
there, we're mostly tobacco and sweet potatoes. But in the southern part of the state, where I'm at right now, is cotton, corn, soybeans, and wheat and peanuts. So
mm,
southern part of 95 down near between like Wilmington all the way over to Lumberton, North Carolina, and into South Carolina, southern 95, that's peanut, cotton, corn, soybeans. You go above that, it is peanuts and sweet potatoes, tobacco, specialty crop due to how the
mm,
soil lays out. Then you go above that, close to Plymouth, North Carolina, and into what we call the Black Lands. It is 100% grain production there, grain and
mm,
lent, but mostly corn and soybeans. Western part of the state, you get into your specialty fruiting
mm.
crops. So it's
Damn.
really geographically set up. But I'd say if you're thinking your average farm size is around 300 acres in North Carolina,
Mm,
and we have some large acre operations, but a large farm to us is 2,000 acres. It's a
yeah.
large farm, 2,000 to
Yeah.
3,000 acres.
That's what I was telling Neil. It's very similar over here in Germany. Like most, like the larger farms are in this area are probably 500-ish acres, you know. And when you
Mhm.
get to Eastern Germany, they get some bigger tracts with a couple thousand acre farms over there. But same thing, you know, a lot more, you know, every farm can be a little different. You might be growing different crops. And yeah, super interesting because I live in a giant cornfield. You know, every time I go to Minnesota or North Dakota, especially, you know, like I meet guys who can grow, you know, edible beans or they're doing some sort of peas up there or they're doing sugar beets or something like that. It's like, oh my gosh, like I wish there was more crops where I live to like experience and grow with, but it's just in an I state, it's just so dominant corn and beans.
Oh yeah. Well, just they always say, what's the old saying? Diversify or die. And that's what we try and do in North Carolina is diversify. But man, we have a lot of corn, bean, wheat growers. I mean,
I
that's
don't,
the staple.
yeah. Yeah, I don't think most of the guys in Iowa have gotten that message, but they haven't had to at this point. But
Well,
maybe,
because
maybe
that's
now.
when you have 2 feet of topsoil, you're spoiled and you can do it. I don't.
I tell people that all the time about Iowa. It's like, honestly, I think a lot of growing practices in Iowa are actually behind compared to a lot of the rest of the U.S. purely because you can grow a 250, 300 bushel corn crop without the same amount of effort you can in so many other states. And so it's just like there's a you know we were talking earlier about how you know high fertilizer costs will hopefully encourage innovation for a lot of people and especially farmers like really looking at hey what can we do differently how can we get creative and I just think most guys in Iowa haven't really had to think that way compared to a state like Nebraska, where you have massive droughts or you have to irrigate. Like you just have such good growing conditions all the time. You don't
Oh,
have
yeah.
to factor in for as many things as other guys do.
That's what we
So,
call the 4 R's of fertility management, buddy. You got to have
yep.
the right rate, the right placement, the right timing, and right product. And that's why in North Carolina, the majority of our nitrogen, phosphorus, and sulfur is banded in the row. We band with a 2x2 starter. We side dress with a knife and rig or a wide drop system. And
Mm,
almost all of our nitrogen, phosphorus, and sulfur is applied through a liquid formulation banded in the row.
dang. Yeah. That's crazy. I think Iowa's starting to get there. Liquid's much more common, but you know, like
And
over
cost
here in
effective
Europe, I mean,
too. Yeah.
dry fertilizer is still like king over here because I think just there's no liquid infrastructure over here
Yeah.
in Europe compared to it. It's just it's so interesting seeing those differences.
What's a
We're
ton
gonna
of
start.
urea going for there?
I have no idea. I mean, you know what? I'll say this: not once has the conversation about the Strait of Hormuz or fertilizer prices has come. I have not heard a single complaint. Also, everyone over here thinks Americans are actually quite efficient farmers. So it is really encouraging to hear. Like we had one guy from the UK come over and be like, "Yeah, I was so impressed with your guys' fertility programs and how you guys are, you know, like getting, everything is so efficient for your fields and the way you operate your machinery." And I was like, "Really? I don't feel like most people feel that way." But all right, we gotta start wrapping up here. So, John, where can people find you?
You can find me on Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. I'm that ag guy, lowercase a and ag. So everybody thinks I'm that a guy, but I'm that ag guy.
That a
I'm
guy.
very active on Facebook and very active on Instagram specifically. Love my TikTok; it's real fun. But man, it's just hard to beat old Instagram. But
It
y'all can
is.
go follow me at that ag guy and get daily crop updates from North Carolina, in-depth agronomic breakdowns on root structure, fertility management, and problem solving for practical problems on the farm here.
Sweet. Well, yeah.
Thank you,
And
John.
what's your guys' family's company name?
FCI, Farm Chemicals Incorporated, out of Rayford, North Carolina.
Wait, yeah. If you guys need anything, you're in the North Carolina area or in that kind of like West or East Coast region, go give John a call. Go check out their website. Support their family business. Follow him on TikTok and Instagram and all that because he's a legend. We love his content. Yeah, I think that's all we got for you. Thanks for coming on,
Okay. Appreciate it, guys. If y'all
Thank you,
need anything,
John.
give me a shout.
We appreciate it.
man. Well, Neil, that was a good time. It was a real good time.
Super interesting.
So,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. I
definitely.
I think keep going.
Oh, I was gonna say definitely. There's nothing I hate worse than being out in public and smelling a vape. So I hate the smell of vape. I much rather smell a tobacco cigarette.
See, I don't like the smell of cigarettes. I love a good pipe tobacco or cigar. It is interesting hearing, like tobacco used to be, very Kentucky based as well, and you guys
Mhm.
largely have transitioned out. So it is interesting hearing someone advocate for tobacco because it is like the public, like the government and the public have basically just done away with tobacco and said it's bad. You can't even think about it. Like, don't even touch it. Like, I even feel a little bit of shame when I smoke my pipe. Like I enjoy smoking a pipe every once in a while or having a cigar. And there is like always this like little bit of like, oh, like this is frowned upon. Like you should, don't let your kids see you doing this. So it is very interesting hearing someone say that. So
I think just tobacco as a plant, I don't think it would be that dangerous if people just smoke the actual plant. It's whenever you add, whenever you add the chemicals to the tobacco is when it starts to get dangerous. So,
yeah. All right. Well, we have another guest joining us. I'm getting cold sitting here in this giant field, so I'm gonna put on a sweatshirt. Neil, why don't you give us a little bit of an intro to our next guest, and then we'll bring him on.
yeah, so we're going to be joined by Quint Pottinger of Affinity Farms. Quint is, I don't know how many generations his farm's been going, but I do know his dad was an innovator in the space. They're very familiar with the bourbon industry, so we'll get to hear that from Quint. I know him, along with his dad, have been like working with autonomous equipment. He's actually got a firsthand experience with it, and they've just been innovators. I know as long as him and his dad have been around, so he can maybe tell us a little bit more if his grandfather was, was an innovator as well. But we're excited to have you, Quint. Thanks for joining us.
Give us a second. We're working through some technical difficulties. Yeah, so we've covered Quint actually twice already on this show from multiple articles that have already been covering. Uh, already been sorry, we're working through some producer stuff. They've already been talking about this, so we've been talking about this. We are very bullish on autonomy. We know it's coming. um, Specifically the Sabanto kit is something that we have been interested in purely because it's a lower cost third party alternative compared to what potentially John Deere or Agco may offer. So we're super interested in that. Yeah, overall, I view Quint as an innovator. They just are starting their own malt house on their property. So we are officially ready to bring them on. Quint, how's it going? Excited to see you.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Thanks for bringing me into the conversation.
So, Quint, give us a little bit of a rundown of who you are, where you're based out of. I know Neil knows you. I followed you on Twitter and read the articles about you, but I don't really know much. So, give us a quick little rundown of who you are.
All right, yeah. So Quint Pottinger graduated from the University of Kentucky in 2011. I had the opportunity to come and purchase a farm that's been in my family since 1781. Um,
Whoa.
Thought I was going to get a farm, but when I showed up to talk to my grandmother, she slid a piece of paper across the table and said, "This is what it appraised for. We think it's worth a little more. You write me a check when you're ready," which took me back a little bit. But I've always wanted to farm. I grew up on a row crop farm with my dad, and we always wanted to farm with my dad. It was a dream of mine. And in 2018, we were actually able to merge our farms together and have started farming together.
Okay. Dang, that's pretty cool. And so, what part of Kentucky are you out of again?
So we're south of Bardstown, 50
Okay.
miles straight south of Louisville, but we're 15 minutes from Maker's Mark, Jim Beam, Heaven Hill. We're just right in the
Yep.
heart of urban country.
Yeah. Dang, that's pretty cool. So, explain to us a little bit of your thought process just in the way you farm, and potentially why it's different than most people. Because that's what I've noticed most from following you is just you are thinking through things in a very different way than I think a lot of people are. So, what is the way? How have you decided to make the decisions on your farm that you have?
Well, that's interesting. My dad, I remember growing up when he was farming in the 90s when it was basically just stagnant. There was no growth hardly or any stories in the ag industry, just post 80s crisis collapse. Um,
Mhm.
he always had the mentality if you're going to grow a crop, you either need to be able to store it until it's profitable or sell it through an animal. And we've taken that mentality moving forward. And instead of selling it through an animal, we're trying to sell it a barrel of whiskey. And we're extremely fortunate in our part of the state because we have so many markets we can sell into. There's the poultry market, we have the river market, we have ethanol in Hopkinsville, a little far, but it's still within driving distance. We've got the biodiesel plant in Owensboro. So I think Kentucky, just by nature of where we're located, presents a lot of opportunities in the row crop space. But the more we engaged with the whiskey industry, and first it actually started out in the deer hunting industry with whitetail deer bagging corn for deer hunters, which led us into this distilling space. We've noticed that there's a real craving for a connection to the farm community, but nobody really knows how to engage with the farmer. I don't think the farmer
Mm.
over the last 40 years, we've lost our ability or understanding of how to engage with the consumer who has rapidly been increasing different options that get thrown in front of them from a food space.
Mm. Yeah, so you guys have been selling to breweries and distilleries this whole time, right?
Yeah, not the whole time. So in 2015, it was Black Friday, or it was 2016, that mini collapse in ag in the commodity market. Uh, I was in I was in a Walmart in E Town, and I stumbled upon a pallet of 40-pound bags of deer corn that was selling for $12 a bag, and I was
Hmm.
struggling to get $3.80 a bushel. And I said, "There's got to be a disconnect here." So I talked it over with my farm business mentor and my business mentors, and thought, what if we just put this stuff in a bag and started selling it?
Hmm.
And the consensus was, you could never get enough volume to generate the profits you would want, not with the labor needs
Hmm.
that go along with it. But we took the profit I made that year on the farm, which was not much, and I bought a little bagger and some certified bag scales and a hand sewer, and we bagged up 8,000 bags of corn that year, hand sewed them all shut, and got into the deer outfitters market on the wholesale side. So we weren't retailing; we were wholesaling to bigger department stores. And one day, this guy comes. It was a Saturday. I had an order for bagged corn to go out Monday. Guy with a big burly beard shows up at my shop. I just finished up pounding these bags of corn. He takes the corn off a pallet, rips it open, runs his fingers through the bag, and he said, "This is exactly what I'm looking for. I'll take all
Hmm.
20 pallets you have here, and I need another 20 Tuesday." And I was like, well, "That's great. Who the hell are you, and why are you on my farm?" And that ended up being a distiller from a small craft distillery in Bardstown that had just opened, who was having trouble sourcing clean grain for the
Hmm.
distillery because they were using feed mills, and the feed mills, they don't the way they blend their grain, it's hard for them to keep the mineral and everything out. So that's where that niche started. And that
Mm,
distillery asked us if we could grow rye for Kentucky grown rye whiskey. And we thought, can't be that much harder than wheat. Turns out it's a lot harder than wheat. It's like the corn of the winter crops. It doesn't self-pollinate. It's susceptible to disease. It gets really tall. It never yields consistently, but it's been a challenge we've been fortunate to work through. And we've got a really, really, really talented agronomist through
mhm,
Wheat Tech, Josh Dennis, who has taken the lead to help us get this growing. And then we've
mm,
joined the Kentucky Rye Initiative with the University of Kentucky to help develop a specific breed of rye for Kentucky. And this stuff kicks off the wildest flavors for rye
mm,
whiskey, and it's different year to year. It is truly incredible.
mm. Yeah. I, yeah, I think that's super interesting. So we'll table that for a second because I love the vertical integration. I love growing things that are not corn or soybeans. So I love all of that. Let's get into your autonomous tractor. I think that's the thing that everyone probably is most interested in. Is you're the guy who's actually using a self-driving tractor.
Yeah. So it was very interesting how this all came about. Um, in 2020, spring of 2024, we'd come out of 2023 and had it was a decent year, crop year. We had decent yields and prices were still solid. And we wanted to look at to putting in a slop drying facility on the farm. So basically all the grain that goes to distilleries, if you buy grain from us, we'll take your slop for free. Then we'll dry it down into a shelf stable grain feed, blend it, pelletize it, and then ship it out. We were actually working with a farm in Italy because of the whole outbreak of the Ukraine war and stuff coming out of the Black Sea to do like a direct ship product for feed for them. And my business mentors and my accountant, we wanted to stress test the farm financials. And what we did, we said, okay, let's go out 10 years and let's make things on average as bad as it can be based on what happened the last 10 years and what happened between 1998 2008, basically pre-ethanol boom.
Mm,
And let's see when we go bankrupt. Do we go bankrupt in 3 years, 5 years, or 10 years with this investment? And we didn't make it 18 months. And that scared me. That scared my accountant, my business mentors. We took a step back and said, okay, instead of investing in this project, why don't we invest, takes the equity out, let's get some cash in, and let's just hold tight. And the numbers we used at the end of 2024 in November, the numbers were much worse in the actual farm economy than the numbers we'd actually plugged in. So we, I think, dodged a bullet, but in that entire process, we started looking at where are we losing the most efficiency of cost? What is the capex that's draining us the most? And while it's crazy what inputs have done in the last 2 years, we uncovered, I mean, we were running 2008 modeled, 30 series tractors and early 2000 model planters. Our capex and equipment, which you all well know, was through the roof, and we didn't know how to solve that. And so
mm,
in an effort to try to reduce our cost efficiency or increase our cost efficiency and reduce our cost in equipment per acre, I just Googled autonomy in farming, and Sabanto was the first company that popped up. I just cold emailed the customer service on the website. I got a call from a guy named Mike Burdick, and we had a long conversation about autonomy, what they were doing. It was primarily used for mowing on sod farms,
mhm,
and he said that we don't know if it'll work for row cropping. We'd love to see it, progress there. We've got some studies done for small grains out west, and he sent me the studies, and I read them, and it was pretty incredible what they were able to do. That's a different story for another time, but um, we had a lot of prevent plant acres in 25. You all remember how wet last year was. It just seemed
mhm,
like every time we turn around, the crop got flooded. So we asked him to bring a demo out to try, and we hooked it up to a 10-foot drill that we had, and we ended up planting like 100 acres in July with this demo in 2 weeks of cover crop. And I thought, this is interesting. So I told my dad, I was like, hey, we got this guy's got this autonomous retrofit kit for a tractor. It goes on 100 horsepower tractors, so they're lower cost. And I think we can plant we can use it to plant our crop with it. My dad said, I just saw this thing on AgWeb and Ag Day did a special. We're 5 to 10 years out planting. So, it's probably not something that'll work today. Well, he shows up, an hour after the demo gets going, watches it run for 10 minutes, turns to me and says, figure out how to get it done, and then just leaves. So I had the green light from my dad in that moment, which is not surprising. My dad's always been an innovator in the industry, just probably for the same reasons that I've become this way, trying to understand where we can save money and increase margins. But we ended up buying a 135 horsepower tractor, hooked it to a 1991 750 grain drill, and we outfitted it with Precision Plantings, their drill system. And I called, they're like, you want to put our drill monitoring system on a 750 drill? Why? And I was like, well, you got this product coming out to be able to look and remotely view what's going on with the drill. Use 2 operating systems. Let's just see what happens. And we ended up planting 500 acres of wheat, rye, and then malt. We went ahead and planted our first crop of barley last year, and it went extremely well. We were very satisfied, and we said, all right, let's push our chips in and let's do it. If autonomy can work in Kentucky, where the technology is today, it can work anywhere. Trust me. Our fields are not square. Our average size is 30 acres. And if we can get this kind of efficiency, there's no reason not to try it. And when I say we pushed all our chips in, we pushed all our chips in. We sold a tractor, a planter. We've got our other tractor and planter are for sale or have been sold. I believe they're sold as of last week. And we were able to return about $400,000 in just straight older equipment costs back to the farm, which we then used to help put our crop out this year. And we're $200,000 all in on a system that's going to plant 2,200 acres of row crop. 8-row planter with splitters, pulled by a 135 horsepower tractor.
Which 200K in equipment in today's market is not a lot in equipment. That is nothing. That is like it costs $500,000 to buy a base level tractor right now. Like that is, and not to mention you are not paying someone to be in that machine the whole time, which is
that's another thing. It wasn't a labor play for us because I was the one doing the planting. What it's done is it's given me more jobs on the farm. But one thing we discovered is there are other efficiencies we found. And I've talked about this, and people say, well, Quint, you probably weren't a very good farmer if you're discovering this. And that may be true. But last fall, when we're in the middle of planting our winter crop, and you guys know that is like, it's the most stressful time of the year is trying to get the winter crop in while you're trying to get the rest of the fall crop out and the logistics and manpower that go into that. I was in a grain truck while this thing was planting, and I was in the sprayer while this thing was planting, and I was monitoring it from my iPad. And we ended up not even pulling our second combine out of the shed because we were adding one more truck to the rotation, having one extra person at the granary, just kept everything from backing up in those pinch points that not only were we able to sell 2 8,000 series tractors, 2 40-foot planters, we also sold a combine. And we've just been able to reduce this thing down. Now, row crop planting has proved to be a little more challenging. And I told my dad we might want to invest in a multi-directional corn head. And he said, no, let the 16-row eat. We'll see what happens. I said, okay. Testing me this fall, I'm sure.
So it's interesting you say all that because I know a farmer in Iowa who was an early pilot for some of Deere's self-driving stuff, and they had it on a tillage machine. And same thing when they're doing fall tillage because they're an organic, they do a ton of tillage, they're organic. He's usually a grain cart driver that then at 5 o'clock clocks out and spends until about midnight, 1 a.m. doing tillage because they got to get it done. It's got to get done. And he said, you know what? I sit in the grain cart till 11 o'clock at night now. We're harvesting faster, trucks are moving faster, and we are getting entire fields finished while I'm doing another job. And it's cut down my work hours by like 40%, which is just like crazy. It's like the amount of savings that even come out of just peace of mind with that too. You got to think like your decision-making ability when you're not next thing. I mean, it's just, that's super cool.
It is, like I said, it's uncovered efficiencies in other places. It shifted a lot of our focus. My job as a farm owner is to maximize the value of the crop that we have. And I can hedge a crop all day long, and that's just like gambling. or I could spend time marketing something. And I've been able
Hmm.
to have more touch points with our distillers and try to understand what they need instead of trying to guess, and then partner with them to create value. And which is why we ended up putting the malt house in.
Yeah. So there was another interesting thing I want to pull out from that conversation there. You said that you have a farm mentor and a business mentor. Talk about that, because that's something that is not entirely uncommon, but it's also not something a lot of people do have, especially in the farm world. So talk about that mentorship that you have there and how that's maybe influenced some of your decision making.
A lot of that comes from my dad. Of course, he's 76 now, but I remember graduating from high school, and I got accepted into UK, and I thought, man, I think I'll just go to ECC, local community college, and transfer. And he said, Quint, you need to get off this farm. You need to go get a job because you need to find out if there's something else out there you like to do.
Mm.
And he wouldn't even let me work on the UK research farm. I got a job at a hospital as a physical therapy tech, and worked 4 years to pay for school and met some really, really cool people. Um, Worked in an ER for 3 months, or thought that that was the route that I wanted to take. But in doing that, when I came back and started farming, my daddy said the same thing. I can teach you a lot, but there's a lot out there that I just don't know. And so find
Mm.
somebody that's younger than me, older than you in the farm space, and listen to half of what they say, and then get a good group of business mentors that you trust and lean
Mm.
into them. And just by nature of seeking out people on the business side with good business acumen, they think our world is just fast backwards the way we do things from a business standpoint. But it influences a lot of our decision making today.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I get asked all the time because we're doing this Heritage Wheat. The first question is, well, what are you going to do? Where are you going to sell it? Because the assumption is in farming that there's always a place to sell what you're growing. And it's like, no, sometimes you have to like create the market. Like that is, and that's something, as a business owner, I try to understand is like I have a duty to market what I do to other people so that they will buy it. And thus there will be demand and so I can charge for it. Whereas in agriculture, we assume that it's someone else's job to generate demand for our product, and we should be able to go and sell it. You know, and it's you're right. It's sometimes we just think about it totally backwards, and the people who in agriculture realize, oh, if I have to market myself, even if you are growing commodities, there is an element there of like, hey, if I can establish relationships or have a higher quality product or have the right people to sell to, I'm probably going to make more money. And so it's just totally different mindset than what's been normal. But in today's market, that's how people are going to have to survive. Like, no, you can't look at what's going on in our industry and be like, hey,
Oh, we lost him. So, yeah, no, I think where Clayton was going with it was, like when you see somebody like you uh, that's doing that exact same, vertically integrating the farm, allowing, the specialty market to be that premium for your product. Um, that's where all these farms are going to have to go at some point if they want to survive the next decade. Just continually selling to the cash market in your local area isn't always working to be profitable. And, you know, building things like malt houses or, having a cow calf operation where then you can take that calf and feed the grain that's coming out of your field makes a lot more sense than taking exactly what the market's going to give you that day. Um, so, I think you're taking that a step further, actually, having the malt house on your farm currently.
Um, well, and I think that we assume, and the consumers have forgotten, and I think the producers have forgotten that the way it's been since 1974, whenever I think it was 74, and Earl Butt said "get big or get out," is the way agriculture has always been. And the hard truth is that we've only been doing this for 40 years. And the reason we did it this way is because we thought we were going to eat ourselves alive globally. And we found out that we were able to innovate our way out of that. And in a world where the population is shrinking and not growing, commodity-based systems, at least in agriculture, maybe not in special metals or building materials, but in agriculture, we'll shift back to something that's more familiar to what happened in the late 1800s, but with today's technology, which means that you could create closed loop food systems very easily in places where the climate allows you to do it. I've always said that I think Kentucky is the best grass state in the country. It blows my mind that we, take 500 weight cows and ship them to Texas to be background, and ship them to Iowa to be processed, just to end up back on our shelf. And I'm not saying this because I don't think that the cattle market should change, or because I think that the farmers should change. I'm saying where I am, it has to be some social sustainability that the farmer takes responsibility for. We can talk about the eroding of rural communities all day long and how the government should create policies to change that. But until farmers can step up and say, we're going to invest in this community, and the way we're going to do it is by food systems, you're not going to change much. I mean,
No,
there's
we are all with you there. Like our whole premise in trying some of this heritage stuff is we can't just grow the grain. We have to capture more of the value chain that exists there and build our own system for it to truly be a resilient. Like if you look at the share of the food dollar, I mean, we it's a very touted statistic. The share of the food dollar the farmer receives is like 12 cents. It's nothing. It's not it's barely it's almost less than yeah, it's almost 10%. So that means there is 90% of the actual food dollar that goes to other people in that system. And so you have to figure out how to create, once again, that self-contained system for you to capture more of that value. And in any other business, it's called vertical integration. We also call it vertical integration. But in any other business, when you have 10% your profit margins, you say, okay, well, what can we in-house? What can we sort? Where can we be more efficient to increase profitability? And we've efficiency out ourselves in the row crop industry. Like we are reaching peak efficiency. So now we have to say, okay, we are as efficient at growing corn and soybeans as we ever have been in all of history. How do we bring more value, more of the value chain onto our operation that someone else is already capturing? The work is already being done somewhere else. How do we take a share of that and make it our own?
Yeah, I think that's right. I like that statistic. I don't use that one as much. The one that I really use to drive home my point is that 36 cents of every dollar spent on food is in distribution. So if you cut
Mm,
out how far things move, you recapture that for yourself and for the consumer, which supports those local systems.
yep.
But I think you're 100% right. And I talked to my economics head of department at UK a couple of weeks ago, and I said, you know, the only marketing classes that were offered to me at university taught me how to hedge a crop. They didn't teach me how to market something. And she said that we are changing that. We realize that there is a need and a want for people that are coming to the university to learn how to farm, not farm kids going to get an education. And they have to
Mm,
teach that, which is good. It's encouraging.
yeah. Yeah. Well, Neil, you got any more questions?
No, I don't. I'm. I appreciate you coming on here, Quint.
Yeah. Quint,
Thanks for
what you're building, I see as the future model of farm. I mean, you're investing in autonomous technology. You understand that the capital expenditure that is farm machinery is not a great idea. You also understand that there is a massive value chain out there that needs to be captured for farms to, I think, thrive or survive in the future. If you're not going to be the 10,000, 20,000 acre guy, you got to figure out a way forward. And I think what you're doing is right. Like we're right on there with you. So I view you as an innovator. I'm happy we had this conversation. I'm happy that I have your phone number now, so I can call you and ask you questions because there's just so much cool stuff going on there. So, where can people find you? If people want to follow you, they want to see what's going on. Where's the best place to find you?
So I'm on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Those are the big three. You can find me. My website's KentuckyAF.com. You can find me at Twitter or X at KentuckyAF, Instagram at Kentucky_AF, and then on Facebook at Affinity Farms. We don't post a lot, but we try to keep people in the loop. And like I said, our number one customers are our distillers. And so what we can do to complement their marketing, we try to piggyback on. We're trying to push this thing out. But there's just real quick, if I can, there's a really, really good book, Sapiens. And it just basically talks about the evolution of how we went from being hunter gatherers to a civilized
Mm,
world. And
yep.
in the middle of the book, he reveals that we domesticated wheat, and that's all civilization is born out of that. But he makes a funny
Yep.
quip that you've all already said. What if wheat, which was a weed that couldn't grow very well, domesticated humans for its own production. And I
Mm.
look at that in today's market, you know, our ecosystem has domesticated us so that certain things can thrive. And that's had a massive influence on how we
Yep.
consume and interact with our food system. And
Yeah.
so, how do
I also I've read quite a few books on wheat this year and the development of humankind, and if basically for the past 10,000 years, any world event that has happened is some way related to wheat, and it
we
is so interesting. It literally multiple world wars have been won and lost on
on
one
wheat?
crop. And it is so fascinating. So anyone out there, if you want to learn about how, yeah, like the whole concept of the domestication of agriculture and how it's changed society, it is our history. Like it is, I would argue it is the one of the very few common themes, minus like human greed and things like that, that has continued through all of human history. Food and war are always present in all of history, and they're always linked. It's so fascinating. So I'm glad there's some other people out there reading stuff like that, because it's all connected and it's crazy. Everything comes back to agriculture. It all does in the end. So, all right, Quint, we appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, Quint.
Yeah, it's been a great
Thanks for having
conversation. So, yeah, we're gonna wrap up our show. So, if you have been watching and you enjoyed this, the best thing you can do to support us is to like and share, subscribe, and review on podcast platforms, because that boosts us in the charts, and that's how a lot of people actually do listen to the show. So, if you're listening to a podcast right now, or you're watching a clip or whatever it may be, go ahead and leave a review, because that helps a bunch. So, you can find Neil and I at the links in the description. You can find Quint and John, our earlier guests, as well in the description. So that's all. Appreciate you. See you at the same time next week, 12:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, Thursdays. That's all.